Boker Tov again. Did you manage to cover all the texts? Okay, I'm assuming you read everything and understood everything. And if you didn't, so just leave the room. So I want to start with a comment by Spinoza in his introduction to Ma'amar Theologi Medini. He wrote in Hebrew, I guess. Theological Ma'amar Theologi. How do you translate? The theological political tractate? Treatise. Okay. He wrote it in Hebrew, so it's called Ma'amar Theologi Medini. So in his introduction, he has a very important observation about the dominance of fear in creating almost all our identities. And he says that fear, anxiety, is part of the basic human condition. And that is because human beings know two things that in his mind animals don't know. The first thing, we know that there is a future. We know that there is a future. Animals, I don't know if this is true, but animals, they don't know that there is a future because their mind is present at their moment. Their mind is where they are. They're not thinking about the next step. They're not thinking about what am I going to do this afternoon while we are still in the morning session. Are you doing that? But that's only because you're human. For animals, their mind is present where they are present at that moment. But then there's something else that we know. Not only that we know that there is a future, we also know that we don't know that future. And the combination of those two understandings, knowing that there is a future, knowing that there is no future, and we can't control that future, is what creates anxiety, constant anxiety. When we're aware of it, we know that anything could happen at any moment. We know that there is a future, we know that we can't control it. In a very deep sense, I would say part of being human is dealing with these two understandings that create constant anxiety. One way is an attempt to sometimes cancel the awareness of the future. Some people are capable of doing this sometimes. Being present, locating your mind where you are. And that's one spiritual world. Spinoza doesn't discuss that world. He discusses the alternative world. Not the world that tries to make you present in the present, but tries to deny the fact that we don't know the future. There is a future, but we can't control it. And how can we control the future? This is the role of religious rituals. That's why religious rituals quiet our anxiety. If your mezuzah will be placed with the right words at the right place, if you'll pray the right way, if you perform all the religious rituals, that restores a sense of control in a world where we have no control. That is why wherever you see human beings, you see religion, because wherever you have human beings, you have human anxiety. That's why religion is universal, because anxiety is universal. And religious rituals quiet that anxiety, but actually Spinoza has two moves in his work. It's anxiety that creates politics also. And it's that anxiety that creates religion. It's the same anxiety, and this is a deep connection between religion and politics. Politics is about control. Religion is about control. Politics is about people controlling people. Religion is about an attempt of human beings to control their future. Meaning, let's try to make a larger statement. Politics taken to its radical end gives us control, gives people control. Religion, Spinoza would argue, gives us an illusion of control. Let me say this again. Politics taken to its radical end ends with tyranny, where you have absolute control. Religion takes to its end is magic, where you have an illusion of absolute control. Rituals When politics turns into tyranny, you have control. When religion turns into magic, it's about control. I think within the Bible we have a voice trying to challenge this understanding of politics and this understanding of religion. Before we entered Chavruta, we studied the paradox that ironically the book of Deuteronomy believes that trying to control ironically makes you lose your control. That only when a king realizes is willing to give up power will he stay in power. I want to think now about the second temptation, not the temptation that politics leading to tyranny, but the temptation of religion being about power also. Not religion being about control also, but religion turning into magic. I want to think about this in light of the text you read in Deuteronomy chapter 26. This is an important move many scholars noticed in the book of Deuteronomy. It's actually almost a theological revolution that expresses a theological revolution we find inside Deuteronomy. What is the revolution? Well, it's a different understanding of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, and as a result, a different understanding of ritual, of religion. And that is in the book of Vayikra, in Leviticus. And not only in Leviticus, also in Exodus, also in Bamidbar, Numbers. Bamidbar is Numbers for some reason, right? There is a dominant voice saying this is a religious cosmos that in some sense believes that we know where God is. God is located in space. Where is God located? Vasuli Mishkan. V'shachanti betocham. And God is present where in the Mishkan? In the tabernacle? In the heart of the Mishkan there's an ark, and right above the ark there is a kaporet, the size of a tefach, of a fist of gold. Coming out of the kaporet there are two cherubs, the kruvim, and the space, the empty space between kruvim, which according to the Gemara in Sukkah is 10 tfachim, is asarat tfachim, 10 fists. That empty space above the kaporet, beneath the wings of the kruvim. That's where God's voice comes from. That is where God is present. Symbolically or not symbolically, he's present there in a form of a cloud. He's somehow, the divine cloud is located in the Holy of Holies above the ark between the Kruvim. That's where God is located. And when you have a theology that God is located in the Mishkan, in the Kodesh Kodeshim, above the Aron, between the Kruvim, when you have that kind of a theology, so you have that kind of a religion. What is religion about? According to that religious universe, religion is a reaction to the presence of God there. Where many rituals are about sustaining the presence of God in the Mishkan. Other sets of rituals are not about sustaining the presence of God. They're about guarding us from the presence of that God. Because as we know in the biblical tradition, being too close to God is life-threatening. Kirvat Elohim is also Kirvat Mavet. So religion is about reacting, responding to the presence of God, either by making him present or by guarding ourselves from his presence. And you could look at the Leviticus and try to understand Leviticus in light of these two categories. Like Tum'ah v'Tehara is us guarding ourselves from his presence. Many of the korbanot are about, especially the Ketoret, are about sustaining his presence. So if God is there, religion is a reaction to him being there. That's a whole religious universe. Deuteronomy offers an alternative religious universe because Deuteronomy doesn't believe that God is there. I just want to listen to one verse in Deuteronomy that explicitly says it. In Mikra Ma'aser, there's a moment when we offer our Ma'aser, our portion that we have to give away. So the book of Deuteronomy locates us in the tabernacle. You enter the tabernacle, and there's a monologue that you have to say. It's written for you. And it's a monologue you read in Chavruta. I want to listen to one line from this monologue. You're standing in the Mishkan, and you're saying the following thing. I'm reading from verse 15, from Pasuk Tetvav. You pray to God, Hashkifa mim'on kodshecha, min hashamayim, uvarech et amcha et Yisrael et ha'adama שנתת לנו, כאשר נשבעת לאבותינו ארץ זבת חלב ודבש. You're praying to God, asking God to watch us, to observe us. Hashkifa mim'on kodshecha. What is ma'on? Is where you are, where you dwell, where your Mishkan really is. Hashkifa mim'on kodshecha. Where's that? Min hashamayim. So we enter the Mishkan and pray to God to observe us, watch us, listen to us, where He is from wherever He is, and where is He? B'shamayim, meaning we enter the Mishkan only to paradoxically say out loud that it's not a Mishkan in the sense of V'shachanti b'tocham. We enter the Mishkan, the tabernacle, where God is present in order to say out loud that He is not. Now this paradox of the gap between the ritual and the text, we enter as if God is there and we say that He is not. That gap is pronounced more passionately in Sefer Melachim, in the book of Melachim Aleph Perek Chet, in Kings 1, chapter 8, where King Solomon, following this theology, builds the temple, the house of God, and in the opening ceremony, he delivers a speech, and his speech is, Hashamayim v'shmei hashamayim lo yechalkelucha, the sky and the sky of the skies. I guess in the ancient world, they had an astronomy that believed that the heavens have a heaven too. Hashamayim v'shmei hashamayim lo yechalkelucha af lo habayit hazeh asher asiti. The entire cosmos can't contain God. Of course this house can't. In the opening ceremony, where you celebrate God's house, you declare, by the way, it's not God's house. The gap between the ritual and the text, what you do and what you are aware of, begins here. You enter the Mishkan just to say, where God is present, just to say that He is not. Hashkifa mim'on kodshecha min hashamayim. And once, if before the Chavruta I try to establish that the book of Deuteronomy creates politics without power, it does something else. It also creates a Mishkan without God. Taking power out of politics and God out of the Mishkan is the double move of the book of Deuteronomy. Now this has a lot of significance because once God is not in the Mishkan, so all the rituals which are a reaction to God's presence are now almost emptied from their significance. I don't have to guard myself from God's presence because it's not present. I don't have to sustain God's presence because it's not present. And now the book of Deuteronomy creates a new theology where because God is not present, so rituals as a reaction to His presence are much less significant. Which takes me to, I think, the prophet which is the greatest interpreter of Deuteronomy, which amplifies the theological impulse of Deuteronomy, and that is Jeremiah. Please open the chapter you read, Jeremiah chapter 7. הדבר אשר היה אל ירמיהו מאת אדוני לאמור, are you all with the text open? הדבר אשר היה אל ירמיהו מאת אדוני לאמור, עמוד בשער בית אדוני וקראת שם את הדבר הזה. God asked Jeremiah to go to the entrance of the temple and to start preaching. That is what's very interesting about this prophet, about Jeremiah. This speech, you read it, is where he attacks the whole religious world of the temple. Where does he attack the temple? In the temple. He goes to the temple to attack the theology of the temple. By the way, he attacks the priesthood. Jeremiah himself is Min HaKohanim Asher Be'anatot. He is a Kohen that attacks the Kehuna. He attacks the Mikdash in the Mikdash. This is Jeremiah. עמוד בשער בית אדוני וקראת שם את הדבר הזה ואמרת שמעו דבר אדוני כל יהודה הבאים בשערים האלה להשתחוות לאדוני. I'm in verse 3. כה אמר אדוני צבאות אלוהי ישראל היטיבו דרכיכם ומעליכם ואשכנה אתכם במקום הזה. I want to be very sensitive now to the way Jeremiah turns the word va'ashakna around. Satan, this is a very important this is the way he turns the word around. This is the moment where he turns the entire theology around. Says to him like this: Heitivu darkechem u'ma'alechem. Create a better society. Later he'll explain. A society founded on sensitivity and on justice. And you have to change your society. Better your ways. Create a society founded on justice, and as a result, va'ashakna etchem b'makom hazeh. The term shachan, which I guess means to dwell, to be present, until Jeremiah and the whole world of Leviticus, who's supposed to lishkon? Who's supposed to be present? God. And the question is, will God be present? And if you better your ways, so God will be present. According to Jeremiah, God's presence is not the question. What is the question? The people's presence. זה לא שהשם שוכן, השם משכין. It's not about God being present, it's God about making you present. The great question of religion is not about making God present, it's about making us present. Heitivu darkechem u'ma'alechem. And if it was the theology of Leviticus, it would have said, Va'ishkon itchem b'makom hazeh. But with Deuteronomy, with Jeremiah, it's Va'ashakna itchem b'makom hazeh. Meaning the great challenge of religion is not to make God present, it's to stay present, because this is now a very important biblical motif. It's not easy to stay present. Nachmanides noticed that this is the most dominant motif in the Bible. That the Bible starts with the question, will we stay in Gan Eden? We were exiled from Gan Eden. Migdal Bavel, they built the entire Tower of Babylon for what reason? Not to be scattered, to be present. But guess what? They were exiled. They were scattered. Later on, the people of Israel enter Israel, and there's one question. What's the question? Will they stay there, and what's the great punishment? That they'll be exiled. There's like two competing motifs. Are we going to be able to create a society that makes God present? Or will we be able to create a society that will be able to guard our presence? B'makom hazeh. The major challenge according to Deuteronomy, Jeremiah, we enter Israel and there's one question: will we stay in Israel? And if we don't create a society founded on justice, we won't have a society at all. We won't stay in Eretz Yisrael at all. He continues, now he explains. I'm in verse 4. אל תבטחו לכם אל דברי השקר לאמור היכל השם, היכל השם, היכל השם המה. Don't trust דברי השקר. What is דברי השקר? It's the words of נביאי השקר. Who are נביאי השקר? They are the demagogues promoting a certain ideology, and the ideology is that the Jewish society, that the Hebrew society in Yehuda has immunity. It can't be destroyed. Why can't it be destroyed? Why does it enjoy immunity? Because God dwells there. The theology of God dwelling here is a theology that creates a false sense of immunity. Therefore, we will never be destroyed. We will never collapse. We will never be exiled. It's a false theology. It's a theology of why when there is a terrorist event, this is a weird metaphor, I'll use it anyway. When terrorists like to hold hostages. When you hold a hostage, what's the purpose of a hostage? Insurance. And the hostage is there to guard me from who? From anyone that will want to rescue them. So I guard myself. So anyone who wants to rescue the hostages at that moment risks those hostages. That's why we hold hostages. That's why, that's what we do. That's why there's hostages, to guard you from the people that want to save those hostages. Now try to think about the interesting theology that they developed here in Jerusalem before the destruction. Why, if God lives in the Mikdash, will God never destroy Jerusalem? Because, why would he do that? So it's like we're holding God's temple as hostage. God's temples guards us from God's rage. The temple guards us. It offers us a sense of immunity. Now, as long as God stays there, what guarantees God staying there? The rituals in the Mikdash. Therefore, as long as we perform the rituals in the Mikdash, we are immune. How do you create a guarded society? Chatat, Asham, Olah, Tamid, Ktoret, Hatavat HaNerot. All the rituals of the temple, that's how you guard your society. That's how you guard its stability. That's how you guard it from destruction. That's how you guard it yourself from exile. Which obviously Jeremiah thinks is a false theology. And the real way to guard your society is to have a sensitive society. Not through ritual, but through justice. That's the real way. But as long as you believe in the myth of the temple, that the temple is guarding you, they won't listen to the prophets telling you it's not about ritual. It's about justice. Which means, and this is an interesting paradox of the Mikdash was created from the very beginning to pure society from its sins. But Jeremiah notices that throughout the generations, the temple is not puring society from its sins, but it's enabling society to sin. Now it's not it's purifying society. It's the reason for corruption and sin. And as a result, what has to happen to this temple? It has to be destroyed. Which takes me, I think, to the most interesting paradox of the temple. The temple, according to Jeremiah, wasn't destroyed because they didn't believe in it. It was destroyed because they did. The temple, the world, the religious world around the temple of rituals, of korbanot, it didn't end because they didn't take those rituals seriously. It ended because they took them way too seriously. I want to take ourselves back to where we began. Human anxiety creates religion that creates an illusion of control. We have a Mikdash, we'll perform rituals and everything will be all right. It also creates politics. We have a lot concentrated power that will enable us to control and somehow guard ourselves from chaos. Interestingly enough, this different way of thinking about politics, that politics should be about control. Religion shouldn't be about control. These two different ways to think about religion and politics were not really played out in Nevi'im Rishonim. Let's think about politics. Was the monarchy created in the end in Jerusalem, was it a monarchy that believed that by controlling less, you control more? What was the moment where the monarchy started collapsing? The moment that the monarchy started collapsing was after Solomon died. The monarchy was divided into two, the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom. They started fighting each other, and as a result, weakening each other. Eventually, the northern kingdom was destroyed and exiled. The southern kingdom, the kingdom of Yehudah, was left isolated, all alone, very weak, and eventually destroyed and exiled. The moment where everything started collapsing was after Solomon died. But it was after Solomon died, but it was because of the sins of Solomon himself. What were the sins of Solomon? Lo yarbe lo nashim. Lo yarbe lo susim. He had 40,000 horses. V'kesef v'zahav. Lo yarbe lo me'od. The book of Melachim says that there were the silver, that the silverware all over Jerusalem was from gold because there was an inflation of gold in Jerusalem. It seems like Solomon violated the laws of the king, and the paradox of power kicked in. You couldn't let go of control, and as a result, everything started to lose control. And I would say we lost the monarchy not because we didn't take the monarchy seriously, but because we took it too seriously. Both religion and politics were lost and collapsed, the monarchy and the temple, not because they weren't used, but because they were overused. We lost the monarchy because it was too powerful. We lost the temple because we imagined had too much power. And in light of these two paradoxes, of politics and of religion, I'd like to listen to the second half of Jeremiah's speech. He's speaking to people that believe that they have immunity, that God will never destroy his own temple. In order to prove to them that, by the way, God has no problem destroying his own temple, he uses a precedent. What's the precedent? Shiloh. And what does he tell them? He tells them to go to Shiloh. Look at the archaeological ruins of the temple of Shiloh and try to think, is your theology right? He uses history as a precedent. Maybe it's possible that God destroys his own house. Let's listen to the way he says this. Verse 12. Ki lechuna el mekomi asher b'Shilo. אשר בשילה, אשר שיקנתי שמי שם בראשונה, וראו את אשר עשיתי לו מפני רעת עמי ישראל. Says, you think I can't destroy my house? I did that already. Just go see in your own eyes. He's asking them to go see. He's standing in Jerusalem, and he's asking all the people to believe in the immunity of Jerusalem to go visit Shiloh in order to understand that even Jerusalem is fragile. Now, this allusion of Jeremiah to Shiloh is very, very interesting. It takes us back to the stories of Shiloh. And I'd like to go back to the story of Shiloh, and the only stories we have in the Bible describing the religious world represented in Shiloh is in Shmuel Aleph, Samuel 1, chapters 1 to 4. And did you manage to read all this? Great. My reading is that chapters 1 to 4 are a critique of the religious world that developed in Shiloh. And I think there's 4 parts to this critique. One, the relationship between Hannah and Eli. Let's think about that picture. You have Hannah versus Eli. Eli is in a tabernacle, Hannah is outside the tabernacle. We have the female that's outside, the male that's inside, and their relationship. Now, I think a great way to think about the relationship between Eli and Hannah is to use Martin Buber's observation of the difference between religion and religiosity. Martin Buber offers the following observation. Religiosity, I spoke about James a little bit yesterday. Religiosity are spontaneous experiences that we might have if we're lucky. It's a sense that you feel the presence of something that is of a mystery. And it could happen to us when we listen to music, when we're walking in nature. It's powerful, it's spontaneous, it's internal, it's emotional. Those are what Heschel calls moments of certainty. They always end, but they're there. To some people, they're more accessible. To others, they're less. As opposed to that, what is religion? Buber said religion is everything that religiosity is not. If religiosity is internal, what is religion? External. If religiosity is spontaneous, what is religion? It's formal. It's established. If religiosity is universal. It could happen to Buddhists, Shintoists, maybe even Jews sometimes. Atheists. It could happen to anyone. It's just something that happens to you. Religion is particular. It's Judaism, Christianity, Islam. We have, now, what's the relationship between religiosity and religion? It's a very big question throughout religion. Buber argues that that tension between religion and religiosity is what our tradition is about. I think it's fair to say Eli is the high priest in a religious hierarchy represented in the Mishkan of Shiloh. And then you have someone that's not a part of the hierarchy, not a part of the system, Hannah. But she has a religious moment. And she speaks spontaneously with God. Later on, she'll describe her speaking spontaneously with God using the following words, Va'ishpoch et nafshi lifnei Adonai. Which she is the founder of one of the most important metaphors later used in the Jewish spiritual world. Lishpoch et nefesh. She's the founder of that metaphor. Later in Eicha, the book of Eicha will pick up on that and say, Shifchi kamayim libech. Nochach pnei Hashem. Lishpoch et nafshi, imagining your soul as water. Literally, I think in English you could still say today, I'm pouring my soul out. You can say that in English? Well, Hannah is the founder of that metaphor. Inside the Mikdash, they pour blood, wine, water on a Mizbech. Outside the Mikdash, she doesn't pour blood, water, or wine, depending what the ritual is. She pours her heart off. Inside the Mishkan, everything is mechanic, ritual. Outside, it's spontaneous, it's spiritual. Something else is going on outside. And what's interesting, Eli, the high priest, when he sees somebody experiencing a passionate religious moment, he can't recognize it. Now this is, I would say, a great example of religion blinding you. You can't even, this I think is a character of a moment of that religion corrupts your soul. When you're so involved in the system that you can't even see religiosity what's in front of your face. Now that Eli versus Hannah will, I think, be two great archetypes throughout, and we will see Eli and Hannah throughout the generations. But Eli, the person in charge of religion, cannot even recognize religiosity. What does he think? He thinks he's wrong. By the way, the Baal Shem Tov has a great story. This is how he criticized Lithuanians. Yeah? This is how he criticizes. He has this great story where imagine someone that's chirish, deaf. Yeah, I don't want to say deaf. So deaf, you say. So someone that's deaf and he sees people dancing, but I can't hear the music. So when you see people responding to music without hearing the music, so they all look crazy, they look nuts. And he criticizes them, you're all crazy. And the irony of the story is, it's not them that are limited. Who's limited? He is. So I think this is a critique, the Baal Shem Tov's critique of Lithuanians, saying they see people responding to God's presence and they're responding, but they think they're crazy. But actually, who's limited? The people who can't sense God's presence. I think Eli that can't, this is the characterization, this is a character of a Lithuanian, it's a Baal Shem Tov, of a Litvak, that they can't notice, understand what is it that the Hasidim are experiencing. Eli can't recognize spirituality. And when the person that's in charge of religion can't recognize spirituality, you could say maybe that's the beginning of the end of religion. Now, not only can he not recognize spirituality, the society there, the society that believe in the magical power of the ark, right? This is a classic Spinoza move. When do they use religion? They're attacked by the Philistines. They're terrified. And now there's uncertainty, and now they know what will bring certainty. What will bring to a world where they just felt like they lost control, an illusion of control. What will do that? The ark. Let's bring the ark out and we'll win the war. And we'll defeat the Philistines. So this is a world that is so absorbed in religion, not only you're blind to religiosity, you actually believe that it works. You actually believe that these rituals, that this ark gives you power. It's worse than that. A third critique of Mishkan Shiloh is we have corruption in Mishkan Shiloh, and the representatives of the corruption in Mishkan Shiloh are the sons of Eli. And there's two sets of corruptions. One, they sleep with the women that come, and two, they take from the korbanot and they eat what they want. So I would say many times to religious establishment, we always find attached to it two different forms of corruption, right? Sexual corruption and monetary corruption. We have two forms of corruption. It seems like which form of corruption really troubles Eli? He says to them, he says to his sons, now we know about two forms of corruption. He says to his sons the following line, Ki yachta ish leish ufile lo Elohim. V'im la'Hashem yachta ish mi yafale lo. This is how I read this line. Ki yachta, when you sin to another person, it's not a big deal because God could forgive you. If you sin to God, who will forgive you? I think what he's saying is, the things you're doing with a woman, it's wrong, but at least for that, God could forgive you. But when you distort rituals, when you take what you're not supposed to take from the korbanot, that's sinning to God. And who can forgive you for that? Meaning Eli has an ethics that's the exact opposite of prophetic ethics. What's the ethics of the prophets? Then what does God care about more? Chesed chafatzti lo zevach. God cares about ethics more than ritual. What is Eli's ethics? It's ben adam lamakom is much more important than ben adam lechavero. It's rituals more important than ethics. See, in some sense it comes together. They believe in the magic power of the ark. They believe that ritual is more important than being moral. They're so absorbed in rituals that you can't even see spontaneous religiosity. But this all comes together, I think, in a moment of parody where now they're in war and tragedy happens. What was the tragedy of the war with the Philistines? It didn't work. The ark was taken. Thousands of Hebrews died. Among those thousands of Hebrews that died, who else died? Chofni vePinchas. Now there's that moment. They describe Eli as being very worried. Why is he worried? He's worried about the ark. Okay, he's not worried as a father. He's not even worried as a leader of the nation. He's not worried about the chayalim. What is he worried about? The ark. And literally, it's described that when they tell him that we lost in the war, he's okay. When they tell him that his 2 children died, he's still okay. But when does he fall off his chair? The ark was captured. This is a parody of the ark-centered society, where the ark, the temple, and its rituals are more important than anything else. It's so important that it blinds you both from spirituality and from morality. From morality, because rituals are more important than ben adam lechavero. From spirituality, because you're blind to religiosity even when it's in your face. I think the critique, these 4 elements I want to put together. I want to mention them all again just so you could. So one was Chana versus Eli, religion that blinds you from religiosity. The second was locating rituals above ethics. Ki yachta ish leish ufilo lo Elohim, v'im la'Hashem yichta ish mi yafalel lo. Rituals over ethics. The third is that they believe that the ark will save them in the war. The belief in the ark. And finally, being the parody of Eli, being very worried about the war, but not worried about his sons, not worried about the people, not worried about human life, worried about the ark. This is a society, it's a parody of a society that you're blinded by religion. Religion is not making you more sensitive, but less sensitive. It's not making you more spiritual, but less spiritual. This is the threat of religion. Religion might be a threat to morality and to spirituality. This is the parody of Mishkan Shiloh. Mishkan Shiloh plays out the paradox I wanted to know beforehand through the words of Jeremiah. The Mishkan Shiloh wasn't destroyed because they didn't take the Mishkan seriously. It was destroyed because they took the Mishkan way too seriously. Which brings me to my conclusion. When Jeremiah preaches to the people that believe, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem, that we have immunity because God is here. Everything will be okay because God is here. We can create an unsensitive society because we are machmir in rituals. When he's offering them that critique and he's saying to them, go to Mishkan Shiloh just to prove my point. I think he's doing more than telling them, look at Mishkan Shiloh and realize that the temple in Jerusalem could be destroyed. I think he might be saying, for the same reasons that Mishkan Shiloh was destroyed, the temple of Jerusalem could be destroyed. Mishkan Shiloh was destroyed. Religion needs to be destroyed where it doesn't cultivate sensitivity, but it replaces sensitivity. It doesn't open your heart spiritually, but it closes it down spiritually. That was the story of Shiloh. That's the story repeated again in Jerusalem. And I think when Jeremiah is reminding us of Mishkan Shiloh, he is not only proving his point, he's also illustrating his point. He's not only saying that the temple in Jerusalem will be destroyed like the temple in Shiloh was destroyed, but the sin that will lead to the destruction of the temple of Jerusalem is the same sin that led to the destruction of the temple of Shiloh. Now, after all these texts, I want to summarize that if anxiety creates an abuse of politics because you want it to be about control, about certainty, an abuse of religion, the ark. In Shmuel's time, they believed that the ark will enable them to win the Philistines. In Jeremiah's time, they believed that the divine presence in the Mikdash will guard them from destruction. They're in the same theology. The theology that religion guards you. Now let's ask, the question needs to be asked. Well, if religion doesn't guard us, so what does? What's the alternative? I mean, one alternative would be, how do you guard your power? Through more power. That's the politics. How do you guard your existence? Through ritual. That's magic. But if power doesn't guard me and rituals don't guard me, so what does offer me a sense of protection? So here I would like to listen again. to Jeremiah chapter 7. Before I go to Jeremiah chapter 7, since we're going to start observing new things now, if there are any questions in this shlav, this would be a good opportunity. Yes, Sarah.
Okay. So it's interesting that one of the sons, the wife dies also because, but the complaint is that she's upset about the ark more so than her husband and her son.
Yes.
So I wanted to know why that sort of is added to the story there.
I think she's a part of the zeitgeist. She's a part of the spirit of that generation, of that time. That the ark is more important than anything else. It's very hard to be a part of a society and not be trapped in the convictions of that society. And that's a moment. As Heschel wrote, that's a function of that's the greatness of the prophets. They live in societies, but they don't think like their societies.
It's a broad question, but I just want to postulate the thought that maybe in our day we've seen the response to Jeremiah's call to decentralize the temple mode. And I know it's big, but just the thought that the Rebbe of Chabad was the only one who basically said that Judaism is best spread as far apart as possible rather than the central. This is the interesting move to shift Judaism to not even the concept of exile, like de facto Zionism that is in exile permanently and can never become.
I think the Chabad comment is very interesting. I just had a conversation 2 days ago with a great anthropologist of Israel, Yoram Bilu. And he writes a lot about Chabad. And I shared with him, I thought, isn't it interesting that Chabad are Charedim, they're not Charedim? Meaning the Haredi impulse is modernity, the world is dangerous, so let's close ourselves from the world. And the Chabadnikim are, the world is dangerous, so let's go out to the world. So they're Charedim that go out to the world. And he told me, no, but if you'll ask a real Chabadnik, they'll always feel like they're inside. Because they have the metaphysics that their Rebbe is with them everywhere. So you have to have the metaphysics that you're inside in order to be outside. Yes?
This might be getting ahead a little bit.
Okay.
We haven't talked about Psalms yet, but what is the sacrifice of Thanksgiving sacrifice that makes it permissible?
Okay.
Along with
Todah. Yes. Yes. No, he's asking. So he's asking about Korban Todah and what's the difference between the nature of let's think about Korban Todah is not about control. It's not about achieving what I want. It's about thanking what I have. I think when the Midrash says לעתיד לבוא כל הקורבנות בתהילין חוץ מקורבן תודה, that all the korbanot are canceled besides the korban of Todah, of Thanksgiving? Yeah. Is that you said Thanksgiving? Okay, that's nice. I think it's saying that it's envisioning Judaism reforming itself, not about controlling, but about gratitude. Not about wanting, we need to change the world, but for that we have to work ourselves. From God, we're not asking God to change the world. We're thanking God for everything we have in the world. I think that's religion at its best. About gratitude, not about control. I think that's where the Korban is leading, and I think Tehillim is there. Is it okay if we have one more question? One last question. Yes?
The question earlier when you talked about anxiety and fear,
Yeah.
and the Spinoza's two things, where does death fit in?
It's very scary.
In the sense that we know that animals perhaps don't.
Yeah, one could say that that religion helps us deal with death by creating a sense that it doesn't happen, by denial of death. Which one could say that's not dealing with the fear, that's like dealing with the object of the fear. Okay, are you okay with me moving forward? Okay. I want to to move back to Jeremiah 7, and to listen to the alternative that he's offering. Jeremiah 7, verse 4, I want to read this again. Don't listen to the demagogue saying, God is here, therefore you're protected. Now here, verse 5 is the alternative. Ki meitev teitivu et darkechem ve'et ma'alelechem. Im asot ta'asu mishpat ben ish uben re'ehu. גר יתום ואלמנה לא תעשוקו ודם נקי אל תשפכו במקום הזה ואחרי אלוהים אחרים לא תלכו לרע לכם ושיכנתי אתכם במקום הזה שנתתי לאבותיכם למין עולם ועד עולם. What will guard your presence here? Your relationship towards the ger, yetom, ve'almana. Meaning, what guarantees us protection is not the quality of our rituals, but the quality of our justice system. Justice replaces rituals as the method that protects our society. I want to think about this move. It's not a trivial move at all. Who are the ger, yatom, ve'almana? But it's almost like he's saying, through rituals you try to connect to God. But it's not your relationship with God that's going to guard you. It's the relationship with the ger, yatom, ve'almana that's going to guard you. Meaning, it's counterintuitive. It's not, God is very powerful. And we always want to satisfy power in order to feel protected. But what he's saying is the following. It's not about it's not about your relationship with God, with power. It's actually about your relationship with the ger, yatom, ve'almana. Your relationship with the powerless that guards you. Think down, not up. Don't satisfy God that's above everything, but the ger, yatom, ve'almana that are beneath everyone else. Now, who are the ger, yatom, ve'almana? Well, the yatom is a person that's not protected because he doesn't have any parents to protect him. So he's unprotected. He's exposed. He's exposed to society. Anyone can abuse the yatom. Almana, now think about almana in a patriarchal society. A widow in a patriarchal society, she's also unprotected because she's unprotected by her Baal, by her husband. That it's true, he owns her, but he also protects her. When he dies, she's exposed. She's unprotected. She's unguarded. Who is the ger? The ger, biblically speaking, is the foreigner that does not enjoy the political protection of a political community. The ger has no political community to protect him. The almana has no husband to protect her. The yatom has no parents to protect him. The ger, yatom, almana are the unprotected people that are among us. And this is now the heart of biblical ethics. Only if you protect the unprotected are you protected. Did you follow that? Yes. How do you achieve protection? By protecting the unprotected. Not through rituals and not through politics, not through more power and not through not through magic. But when you protect those who are not protected, then you are protected. Did I say the word protected too many times? Now how do you protect the unprotected in order to be protected? What is the alternative form of protection that the prophets are putting on the table? How does the Bible, the prophets, and also in the books of Moses, how do they cultivate a sensitivity to the unprotected? To the ger, yatom, ve'almana? How do they do that? Well, the Bible has mainly one educational move here. We all know about this move. It uses memory. How can I feel empathy with the ger, with a minority? I have to remember those days in Egypt when I was a ger, when I was a minority. How can I have empathy with an eved? I have to remember those days when I was an Ivid, meaning I use memory in order to cultivate empathy towards the unprotected in order to be protected. Meaning it's about when you're powerful. And then this is a move. I would say this is probably the most dominant biblical motif when it comes to the relationship between power and ethics. Because it appears 36 times in the Bible, more than anything else. Remember how it felt to be powerless. So while you are powerful, you could be sensitive towards those who are powerless. In a very deep sense, the whole Jewish system, not the whole Jewish system, is a campaign reminding they used to be a slave. Tefillin, tzitzit, mezuzah, Shabbat, kiddush. It's a constant reminder, you used to be powerless. You used to be zecher litziat mitzrayim. You used to be a minority. You used to be a slave. It's a constant campaign trying to remind you that you used to be powerless. And when do you have to remember that you were powerless? While you are powerful. In order to cultivate a sensitivity towards those who are powerless. Yetziat Mitzrayim is about leaving Egypt physically, but keeping Egypt in mind, in your mentality. I would say this is a biblical ethics here is about balance. When you're powerful, remember how it felt to be powerless. Now let's put this a little bit together. When you're powerful, remember how it feels to be powerless, so you can be sensitive towards those who are powerless in order that you will stay in power. Meaning only if you remember how it felt to be powerless, you won't become powerless. Only if you remember how it felt. Should I put this all together legamre? Only if you remember how it felt to be powerless, we'll be sensitive towards those who are powerless, and as a result, you're protecting the unprotected, you'll stay in power. Meaning, let's put it differently, if you'll forget how it felt to be powerless, what will happen to you? You'll become powerless. What guarantees my power is the memory of not having power. That's what protects your power. Now, usually, this is very counterintuitive, because powerful people want to be reminded of their power. In a very deep sense, political settings are to remind you of your power. The Bible creates an alternative here, reminds you of a time that your power is fragile, that it used to be different. If you remember how it felt to be powerless, then you'll stay in power. I mean, instead of I have anxiety of losing my power, one way of my anxiety is through politics. More power. More power will lead to losing power. Another is the temple, rituals. Having an illusion of control for religion will lead you to lose your religion and lose your control. What's the biblical prophetic alternative? How can I guard my power? Not through more power, not through the illusion of control, but through reminding myself of the days when I had no control and had no power. That's how I stay in power. Justice is the alternative to politics. Justice is the alternative to rituals. But maybe there's some refinement to be done. Maybe there's some refinement to be done. Because when I say that justice is an alternative to rituals, well, what are rituals about? What is Pesach, the ritual of Pesach about? To remind you of the days when you were powerless. What is some of the rituals of Shabbat about? To remind you, so when I just said that memory replaces rituals, maybe I should refine what I just said. Memory doesn't replace rituals. Memory of being powerless is the purpose of rituals. If rituals gives you an illusion of control, so that's one use of rituals. When rituals remind you the days where you weren't in control, that might be the purpose of religious rituals. I see there are many hands, but I still have a lot to push forward. So I have, we have the Zohar HaKadosh. So I'll take one or two questions and then we'll continue. Yes?
One other mechanism that the Torah uses about making sure that the power was forgotten is an instance where it says that well, or your wives will become almanah,
Yeah.
and your children will
Yeah.
become
Yes.
my wrath.
Yep. The way you behave to them, that's how you will be. Yes. One more comment, yeah?
It's a question. The prescription that you're talking about at the beginning of the chapter 7 in Jeremiah, all muted by the fact that it says that you're not going to be able to do it. I mean, it says later in the parak that all your protestations, all your, I don't remember exactly what it says off the top of my head, but it says it's going to come to nothing.
Yes. It's interesting. The prophets are terrible educators. I mean, the best form of education is to say to your students, I believe in you, you could do this. And the prophets are, I don't believe in you, you can't do this. I'll tell you what you should do. It's like they never learned the art of positive psychology. And Moses, his entire speech to them, he says to them, I'm going to tell you this long speech and I know you're not going to listen to it. I'll tell you anyway, but there's no chance. It's a great art of educating. But I think to think about the Torah and the prophets, if we measure the Torah and the prophets using their generation, it's a failure. The Torah describes their failure. The prophets spoke to their generation, and their generation did not listen to them. But these prophecies are still alive today, and we're still listening to them today. As someone said once, "Hanavim kashlu b'doram ve'etzlichu b'dorot." They've failed when we think about their generation, but maybe they weren't speaking to their generation. They were speaking to all generations through their generation. So now we're also another generation trying to listen to these prophecies. And this is, I think, what makes Zionism very interesting and exciting. Because Zionism makes prophetic Judaism alive again, because prophetic Judaism tries to speak to people that are powerful and asking the question, will they be corrupted by their power? Jews in the Galut, prophetic Judaism is not too relevant to them. Why? Because, Zionism reconstructs the ability to be. People say, I'm against Zionism because power could corrupt you. But maybe that's the point of Zionism, because power could corrupt you. Which makes the whole Judaism that was created in order to help us deal with the possibility of being corrupted by power alive again. Zionism makes prophetic Judaism relevant again. Dafka because we could screw it up. Dafka because it could not work. I want to think again about the role of memory here. And the relationship between empathy and memory, which will take me eventually, hopefully, if I could pull all these texts off, I hope this will be, I'll need magic to pull this off. I did perform a ritual to pull this off. I'll give it my best shot. The relationship between memory and empathy in the Bible is very, very strong. If I remember how it felt to be a minority, I'll be able to be sensitive towards a minority. Why? Because who do I see in that minority? In some way I'm seeing myself. Meaning the biblical ethics is not Levinasian ethics. It's not about the other, it's about realizing that maybe he's not so other. I use memory in order to, there's something about, there's been, empathy is being able to imagine yourself as the other. Empathy is the ability to experience someone else's pain, but experiencing his pain. Empathy is 6 years ago in Tel Aviv University, I'm sitting on the grass with my students. You know the cool lecturers that sit with their students on the grass? You know those cool lecturers that like to, so that was me. And I'm sitting on the grass with my students. And you know that type of Israeli student in Tel Aviv University, 26, long hair, barefoot, running in the grass in the winter? You know that type? Ever see that type? I'm in the winter, but I don't care because I don't have any shoes on because I'm cool. You know that type? Okay, so that guy, long hair, no shoes, running in the winter on the grass, very cold. I'm looking at him, I'm looking at his feet, and I'm also noticing the sprinkler. And he's running, the mamtira, that, and I see him running right at it, and suddenly, okay. Okay, so you heard that noise just happen in the room? That's empathy. Now listen, how can you feel his pain? You weren't even there. By the way, it didn't even happen. No. You're rabbis, you know this. Actually, it did. It did, but not, not the way I described it, but it wasn't in Tel Aviv. Listen. But if just by telling a story you could feel someone's pain, by being there, now why do you feel the pain? How does empathy work? There's a lot of research done about this. How does empathy work? Empathy is when you feel what someone else feels. By the way, the emotion I read that Daniel Goldman writes about this in Social Intelligence, that the emotion that's most it's easiest to have empathy with is embarrassment. Ever be in a situation where you catch someone in something embarrassing and you feel so embarrassed? I was once, this really happened, I promise. I was once giving a lecture in Tel Aviv to many, many people, and I was speaking with my hands because sometimes I do that, and there was a Coke bottle, and there was some glass, and suddenly, bang, the Coke glass falls on the floor, collapses, 400 people looking at you, and it's very awkward. What do you do now? If you stop to clean, that's very awkward. If you just go on, that's awkward. What do you do? And I realize everyone is frozen now, and I know something about these situations. Whatever I will say will be funny now. Like I said something very not funny, like a Maim Kedoshim, something, and everybody's like cracking up like crazy. And it took me time to realize, why was everybody laughing from the very not funny joke? They didn't do that to rescue me from my embarrassment. They were rescuing themselves. There's something about feeling what somebody else feels, but interestingly enough, to feel what someone else feels, you have to imagine yourself in his place. You have to feel, and that's why it's hard for us to have empathy with people that are different than us. That's why the ger is the ultimate challenge to empathy, because he's so not like you. Comes from a different place, different accent, different color, so not like you. It's very hard to have empathy with the ger. The move of the Torah is we use memory to create a sense of likeliness. We use memory to gap our differences. Again, it's not novinas. It's not me reaching out to him because he is different, but because realizing that he is not. Let's think of it this way. Ger usually is a person from a different place. So we use memory, meaning we go through a shared experience. We use time to overcome space. I remember myself as a ger so I could see myself in the ger. I remember myself as an eved so I could see myself in the eved. Now this is very important because today there's different ethical moves that look like this. And some Israeli intellectuals are trying to cultivate the following attitude, trying to say that maybe ethics is about me. I could only be sensitive to someone else's pain if I overcome myself, if I forget myself, because my ego is in my way, because my story is in my way, because my personal memories are in my way. I have to overcome myself, escape myself, forget myself to connect to someone else. Meaning I could only, for example, have sensitivity for the Palestinian minority if I somehow become universal and less Jewish. My Judaism is trapping me, it's blinding me, it's not enabling me to be sensitive to the minority that's among me. I think the Bible is offering here a different understanding of ethics. I don't have to overcome my story in order to be sensitive to someone else's story. I actually have to connect myself to my story in order to be sensitive to someone else's story. There was a great, I want to come out of the closet now, if it's okay. I don't have Facebook. Yeah, I know. Does anybody here have the same problem? Okay, great. Thank you. Toda. We should open a group. With a Facebook page. We don't have any. So we all have our own reasons, own problems, own anxieties, why. But I know something that when there is a post that becomes very viral, so somehow I have friends that I always get it. And there was a post, maybe some of you read it, that became very, very viral in a few days, 1.5 million hits in a few days, of two simple people, not celebrities, that were out on a date, and they had this somebody waiting on them. A waitress, you say? A waiter?
Yeah, depends on female.
I guess it's a female. So, waitress, okay. So waitress was waiting on them. Okay. And it took her 40 minutes to ask to bring them their order, and it was coffee. 40 minutes. Some of us would be out of the restaurant already. 40 minutes. And guess what? So when someone brings your coffee 40 minutes late, what kind of energy do you send to that person? What kind of face do you make? What kind of a tip do you leave? So they were very upset at her, but suddenly they remembered that they used to wait people also when they were students back in the day. They look around and they realized that there are 40 tables and one waitress. And they realized in their days when they were students and they were waiting people that you know how many tables does one waitress or waiter need to serve maximum? Between 5 and 7. Now if she's waiting on 40 tables, it's not her screwing up. Who screwed up? The manager, the boss, someone that didn't come, something happened. So they realized, if we're having a hard day, who's really having a hard day? She's running around 40 tables. Every table she comes, people are not sympathetic that she's working so hard. On the contrary, what are they doing to her? Bad energies. What kind of tips is she going to make this today? Horrible tips. And they realized, wow, that the one who's suffering today is not the person that they got their coffee not on time, but the waitress. So they left her. This is how they end their post, and this is why I got 1.5 million hits. They left her a tip of $50. And they wrote, "We left that tip to ourselves." And this resonated. What do they mean, we left that tip to ourselves? We left that tip to her, but through her, who did we leave the tip to? To who we were, what we saw in her. I think biblical ethics is not that if I forget my story, it's not that my Judaism, my story, my particular story blinds me from someone else's story. And therefore, in order to be sensitive to someone else's story, I have to disconnect myself from my story in order to connect to someone else's story. I think biblical ethics is about, if you connect to yourself, can you overcome yourself? If you're connected to your story, can you see someone else's unique story? It's about your uniqueness that enables you to realize someone else's unique suffering. Let's try to put this together again. It's memory that breeds sensitivity that leads to protection. "13 minutes for the Zohar. Are we up for this? Okay. Because what I want to do, so everything I was saying till now, I would say it's the ethics of how not to lose your power. How do you not lose your power? You remember how it felt by balancing yourself. You remember how it felt to be powerless in order not to become powerless. But I have a question. This entire system, how does that work in the Galut? In the Galut, when you're persecuted, when a minority, when you're powerless, does the Torah have any more meaning? I mean, what in the Galut do I remember how it felt to be a minority in Egypt when I'm a minority in Vermiza, in Megensa? The entire system that balances power with the memory of powerlessness that cultivates empathy and that whole move. Do I need to be reminded of powerlessness when I am in the galut? Seems like the galut makes the entire prophetic system meaningless. Actually, maybe in the galut I don't have to be reminded of my powerlessness. I don't. Why? I'm living it. That's not a balancing memory. The Zohar here, what is this Zohar about? The Zohar is about, this text is about galut, right? And it's about noticing how powerful the goyim are and how powerless we are. How they are above and we are on the bottom. How we are on the wrong side of history. How everything is going for them and nothing is going for us. That's the way the Zohar, I'm not going to read because I don't have any time, okay? This is how the Zohar understands the galut experience of being on the losing side of history and being always confronted by the winners of history, of being powerless, being persecuted by the powerful. So he's saying, how do we survive galut? What is the Zohar saying here? Does anybody want to say? How do we survive galut? How, according to the Zohar? Faith in the promise, hope. Where do we do that? We enter the Beit Midrash. And the Beit Midrash, we read our sacred text. And what do the sacred texts tell us? That eventually what will happen? Well, to all these goyim. They'll be on the bottom. They'll all collapse. It will happen to us. We will rise. We will prevail. So, and the Torah says, if we won't remind ourselves that in a metaphysical sense, we are powerful and they are powerless. If we won't remind ourselves that there is the nigle history, the revealed history, and then there's the hidden history. And the revealed history, they're on top. But in the revealed hierarchy of history, we are on top, they are on bottom. And every time we go to Beit Midrash, we read the Torah, we remind ourselves that we are the ones who are powerful. And one day, in Messianic times, we'll be on top and they'll be on bottom. What is implicit will become explicit. Let's try to put this together. Prophetic Judaism is about when you are powerful, remind yourself that you used to be powerless and that you could be powerless again. When you're powerful, remind yourself of your fragility, of your weakness. What is Galut Judaism as experienced in the Zohar? When you are powerless, what do you have to remind yourself? Of your hidden power. When you're powerful, so the prophets remind you that you used to be powerless. In the Zohar, when you're powerless, it reminds you that one day you will be on top, you will be powerful. Which means, what is the Zohar doing here? It's taking the biblical motif and using it again. The biblical motif is that your awareness balances your politics. When you're powerful, have an awareness of being powerless. In the Zohar, when you're powerless, have an awareness that you are powerful. And as Zohar says, we won't be able to survive the galut without this balancing experience. Is this too quick? I'm moving forward. So the prophetic Judaism is, if you won't remind yourself that you're powerless, when you're powerful, you will lose your power. I'll just call this as a generalization. The Judaism put forward in the Zohar, I want to call this Galut Judaism just to make it easier, as opposed to prophetic Judaism, is that if you won't remind yourself of your power when you're powerless, yeah, let me put it better. I finally have the sentence I'm searching for. In prophetic Judaism, if you won't remind yourself that you're powerless when you're powerful, you'll end in Galut. When you're in if you won't remind yourself of your power when you're powerless, you won't survive the Galut. Okay, now it's... Okay. This is the first time I'm presenting these thoughts. So Galut Judaism inherited the biblical impulse of balance, that your awareness has to balance your conditions. Now, in light of all that, I want to think about the third phase of history, Zionism. What is Zionism? We're out of Galut and we're back. Now, we're not a minority, we have minorities. We're a majority. We're not weak, we're strong. Now, what's the narrative you carry back to Eretz Yisrael? Would it be fair to say that if we carry the narrative we developed in the Galut to Eretz Yisrael, this is how it would look like. In the Galut, we developed the narrative that metaphysically we are superior. Metaphysically, we're stronger. Metaphysically, we're above. And that balanced the experience of being inferior, of being on bottom. Now, what happens if we carry to power the narratives that we've developed when we were powerless? When we tell ourselves the story that metaphysically we're better than everyone else, but we tell ourselves that story not when we're weak, but when we're strong. So what does that do to you? If we bring the narratives of Galut to Eretz Yisrael, what does that do to you? So in the Galut, it balanced you. In the Galut, it guarded you. But when you're sovereign, those same narratives that balanced you and guarded you, now those narratives could corrupt you. Because now I'm telling myself that I'm metaphysically strong, but I'm also politically strong. So now that narrative doesn't balance me. It excites me. I get excited for my own power. Now religion is not balancing my sense of sovereignty. That religion is putting my sovereignty on steroids. Now I want to call this, I would say, a religion. When Judaism celebrates power while you are in power, I want to argue this is Galut Judaism. Because that's a Judaism that brought the Jews to Israel, but not Judaism to Israel. I want to make an argument what religious Zionism could look like. A religious Zionism is a religious Zionism that enables your religion to be informed by Zionism. A religion that's aware that something happened in 1948. Something happened, and I want to let my religion to be informed by that. Now I'm powerful. I don't need to go into a Beit Midrash like the Zohar says to remind myself that I'm better than the Goyim, because outside the Beit Midrash I'm humiliated by those Goyim. That was very important in the Galut. But now I have minorities. Now the Goyim are not the powerful people that I'm a minority among them, but they're the weak people, and they're my minority. Now maybe it's time to go back from Galut Judaism to where? To prophetic Judaism. I think this is what religious Zionism could look like and should look like. Many Israelis think that the way to guard Zionism, they think religion is threatening Zionism because Zionism is about us having sovereignty and religion makes us over-celebrate that sovereignty. I'm powerful, and at the same time reminded that I'm also metaphysically powerful. So the best way to overcome that is to cancel religion. And many Israelis think that the only way to live a normal life and being sovereign and sensitive at the same time, is overcoming religion. What I'd like to offer is that in order to do that, we don't have to overcome religion. We have to listen to the impulse of religion. And it's the impulse that you always have to balance your condition with your narrative. And when we are powerless, we have to have a narrative that we are secretly powerful. But when we're powerful, prophetic Judaism is about reminding yourself that you could be powerless and that you were powerless. So you could have empathy towards those who are powerless. Eventually, I would say what my shiur tried to be about, and I worked very hard preparing for this, I hope, is... Todah.